My sports coach told me that missing monthly periods and passing out was dedication, so I reported her and had her removed. Months later, she sent her new team after me to ruin my reputation. When I was 14, my mom uprooted our home halfway across the country to Texas. I was scared of having no friends and becoming the loser you always see getting bullied in those high school movies. So to combat this, I joined the gymnastics team. I expected the girls to be that beachy stereotype, but they weren't. They were just pretty girls that everyone else assumed would be really mean. There was only one nut job on the team, Coach Helen. She always had a whistle in her mouth, never spoke without screaming, face always red from anger. On my first day, one of the girls told me that there was a rumor of Helen hitting one of the girls in the past. I thought it was just dumb gossip, but as more time passed, I understood how the rumor had spread so far, because in the span of just a few days, Helen had already called me a fat F whose only purpose is comedic relief, all because I was a little slower than usual since I was on my period. Whenever she screamed at me, I'd just play some Taylor Swift song in my head and wait for her to finish, because there was no way I'd let her insane perfectionism get to me. But my friend Kayla ate up everything Coach Helen said. When the Clue app said her period was on the way, Kayla refused to eat nothing but lemons and ice cubes for an entire 24 hours, because the starvation prolonged it from starting. We could always tell when it was happening. She'd look like some sort of flexible zombie. All the starvation made her so skinny that it was hard to look at her during practice. But Coach Helen didn't have that problem. She would come to practice with designer custom leotards and gym bags for her. "This is what happens when you girls don't let your biology get you down," she'd always say, praising Kayla as if she was the golden standard. She then pinched the thigh of another girl on the team. So while Kayla is going above and beyond, Salma over here can't even say no to chocolate cake. None of us found it funny, but we breathed a laugh because we were so scared of her. From there, something changed. When we all sat down to eat lunch together, we'd all be eating less and less. One of the girls started bringing in a single Ferrero Rocher as her main meal of the day, and then gulped down a bunch of water to balance it out. People started bragging about how little they were eating, how many periods they had missed. We all had MyFitnessPal Premium, and added each other as friends to keep us accountable. And don't get me wrong, I wanted to please Coach Helen too, but there was no way I'd walk around looking like I was on the verge of death. So I started eating most of my food at home when no one was around, and completely cut out dessert from my diet. But one day, as I bit into a slice of bread, all my teammates went extremely silent, like, "Okay, thanks everyone." In weeks, our team had gone from preppy, upbeat, and chatty to looking like some sort of cancer support group. Sometimes after good training sessions, she'd even bring us out to eat, and halfway through, all the girls would disappear to the bathroom. When they came back, there was water in their eyes and you could see traces of vomit on their clothes. But this all made Coach Helen even happier. She constantly reminded us of how much better we looked when we were thin, and how much better the movement did too. Eventually, I actually started to believe that by eating a healthy amount of food every day, I was dragging the team down. So much so that I gave in and started taking these appetite suppressant tablets that Salma had. I still had slightly more meat on my bones compared to the other girls, but it was worth it, because our team was beating every other in competitions, and the team photos were getting so much praise, not just from Coach Helen, but also the other kids in school. One day, me and my mom were visiting San Antonio to see the river walk. We were in the hotel getting ready when I reached up to pull the curtains apart. My mom gasped, "Honey, what the actual F?" I looked at myself in the mirror to see what she was talking about, and that's when I noticed it. For the first time, I saw my body for what it was. Not Coach Helen's dream, not beautifully skinny, not a gymnast's dream. I was malnourished, severely underfed, and sickly. Tears filled my eyes, and that's when my mom grabbed me. "Honey, what happened? How long has this been going on?" The desperation in her voice woke me up to how messed up the entire thing was, and I simply told her I'd stop, and I meant it. When school started again, I gathered all the girls at lunch. I told them it wasn't normal to feel dizzy every time you get out of bed in the morning, to feel tired after sleeping for 16 hours, to only get your period once every 3 months. Pretty much all of them rolled their eyes or just zoned out. Well, that's when I took out Popeye's classic chicken sandwich and ate it right there and then. Their mouths dropped. One of them looked like they were about to faint. Mwahaha. But as soon as my master plan started, it was ruined, because that's when Coach Helen burst through the doors. She marched over to our table, whistle swinging around her neck like a pendulum of doom. The entire cafeteria went silent. You could hear the Popeye's wrapper crinkling in my hand. "What do you think you're doing?" she hissed at me, her voice low but somehow still carrying across the room. I took another bite of my sandwich, trying to look casual while my heart was about to explode. "Eating lunch," I mumbled through a mouthful of chicken. The other girls at the table looked like they were watching a horror movie. Madison was literally covering her eyes. Coach Helen snatched the sandwich from my hand and threw it in the trash can beside our table. Then she leaned in close to my face. "Team meeting. After school. Don't be late." She stormed off, leaving behind the scent of her overpowering perfume and pure rage. The rest of the day was torture. I got texts from everyone on the team asking what I was thinking. Salma sent me a crying emoji followed by, "Rip your gymnastics career." Even girls who weren't on the team were whispering about me in the hallways. By 6th period, the story had somehow morphed into me throwing a chicken sandwich at Coach Helen's face. After the final bell, I dragged my feet to the gym. Coach Helen was already there with the entire team sitting in a semicircle around her. There was an empty spot right in front of her. "Great. Nice of you to join us, Mackenzie," she said, using my full name, which she only did when she was really mad. I was just explaining to the team about commitment and sacrifice. I sat down on the cold floor. Everyone was avoiding eye contact with me. As I was saying, "Ladies, this is not a hobby. This is not a social club. This is elite gymnastics. And elite gymnasts understand that their bodies are instruments." She walked around our circle like a shark. "Some of you have been making excellent progress. Others," she paused dramatically behind me, "seem to think fast food is an acceptable fuel for champions." The lecture went on for almost an hour. She brought up every competition we'd won since we started her nutrition program. She reminded us of the scouts who would be at regionals next month. She made Kayla stand up and demonstrate how her backflip had improved now that she wasn't weighed down. By the end, I felt like absolute garbage. Was I really being selfish? Was I letting everyone down? The doubt crept in like poison. "Now, I think we need to address the chicken sandwich incident directly," Coach Helen finally said, turning to face me. "Mackenzie, do you have something to say to your teammates?" Everyone stared at me. I opened my mouth, not even sure what was going to come out, but then I remembered my mom's face in that hotel room, the horror in her eyes when she saw what I'd become. "Yeah, I do have something to say," I started, my voice shaky. "I think we're all getting sick. Like, literally literally sick. Brenda passed out last week during practice. Catherine hasn't had her period in 3 months. We're all dizzy and tired all the time. Coach Helen's face hardened. That's called dedication. No, it's called an eating disorder. I shot back. The words hung in the air like a bomb. No one had ever said it out loud before. The silence was broken by Kayla. Coach Helen is just trying to help us be our best. Maybe you should quit if you can't handle it. Several girls nodded in agreement. I looked around at my teammates, girls I'd spent every day with for months. They looked like strangers now. Or maybe I was seeing them clearly for the first time. Scared, brainwashed, and desperately thin. Practice starts in 5 minutes, Coach Helen announced, effectively ending the discussion. Anyone not on the floor ready to work can find another team. As everyone scrambled to get changed, Salma caught my eye. She mouthed, "Sorry," before hurrying away. I stood there alone, wondering if I was crazy or if everyone else was. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what Coach Helen had said, what my mom had seen, what my body was telling me. Something had to change, but I had no idea how to make that happen without losing everything. My spot on the team, my friends, the one thing I was actually good at in this new town. The next day at practice was brutal. Coach Helen made me do conditioning drills for the entire 2 hours while everyone else worked on routines. My legs felt like jelly by the end, and I could barely walk to my mom's car afterward. When I got home, I collapsed on my bed and cried for like an hour straight. Not because of the physical pain, but because I felt so alone. My mom knocked on my door with a plate of spaghetti. "Honey, do you want to talk about it?" she asked, sitting on the edge of my bed. I told her everything. The team meeting, the way everyone looked at me like I was a traitor, how Coach Helen had singled me out. My mom's face got all serious. She asked if I wanted to quit the team. Part of me did, but another part couldn't stand the thought of giving up. Plus, I'd finally made friends in this new town. If I quit gymnastics, I'd be back to square one, the new girl with no social life. "I'm going to stick it out," I told her, "but I'm not starving myself anymore." The next few days were weird. At practice, Coach Helen barely acknowledged me except to criticize my form or speed. The other girls mostly avoided me, except for Salma, who would occasionally whisper encouragement when no one was looking. Kayla, on the other hand, had become Coach Helen's mini-me, pointing out my mistakes before Coach Helen even had the chance. On Thursday, I was struggling with my balance beam routine. I kept wobbling on my turns, probably because I was actually eating regular meals again, and my body was adjusting. Coach Helen made me repeat the same sequence like 15 times while everyone watched. "This is what happens when you prioritize fast food over fitness, ladies," she announced to the team. Mackenzie used to be able to do this in her sleep. I gritted my teeth and tried again, and again, and again. My legs were shaking from exhaustion, but I refused to give up. On my 16th attempt, I finally nailed it. I looked over at Coach Helen, expecting at least a nod of approval. Instead, she just blew her whistle. "All right, water break for everyone except Mackenzie. She needs to do it 5 more times to make up for her regression." As everyone headed to their water bottles, I heard Kayla loudly say, "That's why Coach Helen is the best. She doesn't let anyone slack off." I wanted to scream. Instead, I did the routine 5 more times, each one more perfect than the last, fueled by pure rage. After practice, I was the last one in the locker room. As I was changing, I overheard Coach Helen talking to her assistant coach, Tyler, just outside the door. "We need to make an example of her," Coach Helen was saying. "The other girls are watching. If they think they can eat whatever they want and still compete, everything I've built will fall apart." Tyler's response was quieter, but I caught something about taking it too far and parents might complain. Coach Helen laughed. "Parents want winners, Tyler. They don't care how we get there." I froze, my t-shirt halfway over my head. They were talking about me. They were planning something. I quickly finished changing and snuck out the back door of the gym. That night, I couldn't sleep again. I kept thinking about what I'd overheard. Make an example of me? What did that even mean? Would she kick me off the team? Give me even harder conditioning? I tossed and turned until my alarm went off at 6 a.m. for morning practice. When I got to the gym, something felt off. Everyone was already there, which was weird because I was usually one of the first to arrive. Coach Helen stood in the center of the floor with a scale, an actual weight scale. "Good morning, Mackenzie," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "We're doing weigh-ins today." My stomach dropped. In all my months on the team, we'd never done public weigh-ins. Sure, Coach Helen would sometimes make comments about our bodies or pinch our thighs, but she'd never actually weighed us in front of everyone. "Everyone line up," she commanded. "Leotards only, no warm-ups." One by one, the girls stepped on the scale. Coach Helen recorded each weight in a little black notebook, occasionally nodding in approval or frowning slightly. When it was Kayla's turn, Coach Helen actually clapped. "Ladies, this is your target," she announced. "Kayla has maintained her competition weight perfectly." Then it was my turn. I hesitated, but Coach Helen beckoned me forward impatiently. I stepped on the scale, my heart pounding. The digital display flashed a number that was about 8 pounds higher than when I'd been starving myself. Coach Helen's face darkened. Well, it seems someone has been enjoying their Popeyes a little too much." She wrote down my weight and circled it dramatically. "This is what we call a liability, ladies. Extra weight means extra strain on your joints, extra risk of injury, extra difficulty for your teammates who might have to spot you." I felt my face burning with humiliation. Some of the girls were looking at the floor, but others were staring right at me. Kayla had a smug little smile on her face. "Mackenzie will be doing extra conditioning until she gets back to her competition weight," Coach Helen announced, "and she'll be sitting out the group routine at the meet next weekend." I bit my lip hard to keep from crying. The group routine was my favorite part of competition, and I'd been practicing it for weeks. "That's not fair," a voice said from the back of the group. Everyone turned in shock. It was Salma. "Mackenzie hits every mark in that routine. We need her." Coach Helen's eyes narrowed. "Interesting perspective, Salma. Let's check your progress, shall we?" She flipped back in her notebook. "You're up 3 pounds from last month. Perhaps you'd like to join Mackenzie in extra conditioning?" Salma immediately shut up and looked away. I couldn't blame her. After the weigh-in disaster, practice was a blur of exhaustion and humiliation. Coach Helen made me run laps around the gym while everyone else worked on routines. Every time I passed the group practicing without me, my chest hurt a little more. By the end of the week, I was mentally and physically drained. The meet was tomorrow, and I still hadn't been allowed to practice with the team. Instead, I'd spent every session doing endless conditioning exercises while Coach Helen criticized my form, my attitude, and occasionally, my breathing. Saturday morning arrived, and I dragged myself to the competition venue. Even though I wasn't in the group routine, I still had my individual events. As I was warming up, Salma approached me. "Hey," she said quietly. "I'm sorry about the other day. I should have stood up for you more." I shrugged. "It's okay. I get it. Nobody wants to be Coach Helen's next target." Salma looked around nervously to make sure no one was listening. "There's something you should know. Coach Helen has been talking to the other coaches coaches about you. She's been saying you've been having attitude problems and might try to show off during your routines. My jaw dropped. What? Why would she do that? I think she wants you to mess up, Salma whispered. She told Kayla that sometimes you have to prune the weak branches to save the tree or something weird like that. Before I could respond, Coach Helen's voice boomed across the warm-up area. Ladies, circle up. We all gathered around her. She gave her usual pre-competition pep talk, all about representing the team and showing our best selves. Then she looked directly at me. Some of us will be sitting out certain events today, as discussed. This is a valuable learning opportunity about the importance of discipline and commitment. I clenched my fists but said nothing. I still had floor, bars, and beam. I'd show her. I'd show everyone. The competition started and our team was doing well. Kayla nailed her vault, getting the highest score of the day so far. Salma was solid on beam. I was up next on floor, my strongest event. As I chalked my hands, Coach Helen appeared beside me. Remember, Mackenzie, no fancy additions to your routine. Stick to what we've practiced. I nodded, confused. I never deviated from my routines in competition. That was gymnastics 101. I took my position on the floor, waiting for my music to start. The familiar notes began, and I launched into my routine. Everything felt good. My tumbling passes were clean. My dance elements were sharp. I was in the zone. As I prepared for my second pass, I noticed Coach Helen watching me intently from the sidelines. There was something in her expression that made me hesitate for a split second. That moment of distraction was enough to throw off my timing, and I took a big step out of bounds on my landing. I recovered quickly and finished the routine, but I knew I'd lost points. When I came off the floor, Coach Helen was shaking her head. What happened out there? You know better than to step out of bounds. I got distracted, I said, still catching my breath. Her eyes narrowed. Concentration is part of the sport, Mackenzie. You need to block out everything except your routine. I stared at her, realizing she had been trying to throw me off with her intense scrutiny. My score came up, 8.6. Not terrible, but well below my usual. Coach Helen patted my shoulder with fake sympathy. Better luck on bars, she said, loud enough for the other coaches to hear. Sometimes nerves get the best of us. I was fuming as I prepared for bars. This time, I was ready. I blocked out everything except the apparatus in front of me. When my turn came, I attacked the routine with everything I had. No hesitation, no doubt. Just clean, precise movements that I'd practiced thousands of times. I stuck my dismount perfectly. The crowd cheered, and even some of my teammates looked impressed. Coach Helen's face was unreadable. My score flashed, 9.4, my best of the season. Take that, Coach Helen. As I walked back to our team area, I passed the judges' table. One of them, an older woman with gray hair, gave me a small smile. Nice recovery, she said quietly. Don't let anyone get in your head. I blinked in surprise. Had she somehow seen what was happening? Before I could respond, Coach Helen appeared at my side, steering me away. What did she say to you? She demanded. Just nice routine, I lied. Coach Helen looked suspicious but didn't push it. You're up on beam in 20 minutes. Start warming up. Beam was my weakest event, the one where my extra few pounds actually did make a difference in my balance. As I practiced my mount on the warm-up beam, I could feel Coach Helen watching me like a hawk. When it was finally my turn to compete, I felt a weird calm settle over me. Maybe it was because I'd already been through so much that day, or maybe I was just too tired to be nervous anymore. I mounted the beam cleanly and moved through my routine with a focus I hadn't felt in weeks. About halfway through, I spotted my mom in the stands. She gave me a subtle thumbs up and something clicked inside me. I wasn't doing this for Coach Helen. I wasn't doing it for my teammates. I was doing it for me because I loved the feeling of nailing a difficult skill after working hard to master it. I finished my routine with a solid dismount and a small hop on landing. Not perfect, but definitely my best beam performance of the season. I walked back to Coach Helen, who looked genuinely surprised. Well, she said, seems like you can focus when you want to. My score came in at 9.1, putting me in third place for beam overall. As the competition wrapped up, our team had secured second place. Not bad considering I'd been kept out of the group routine. During the award ceremony, I stood with my teammates, accepting our silver medal. Coach Helen was all smiles for the parents and judges, praising our hard work and dedication. Anyone watching would think she was the most supportive coach in the world. As we were packing up to leave, the gray-haired judge approached me again. You have real talent, she said, but talent needs the right environment to flourish. She handed me a business card. My name's Cynthia. I used to coach at UT. If you ever want to talk about your gymnastics future, give me a call. I quickly pocketed the card before Coach Helen could see it. Thank you, I whispered. On the bus ride home, I sat alone, thinking about everything that had happened. Coach Helen had tried to sabotage me, and I'd still performed well. What did that mean? Could I actually succeed without her help? The next day was Sunday, our one day off from practice. I used the time to do some research. I looked up eating disorders in athletes, proper nutrition for gymnasts, and coaching ethics. What I found confirmed what I'd started to suspect. Coach Helen's methods weren't just harsh, they were dangerous and possibly illegal. I called Cynthia, the former UT coach. She agreed to meet me for coffee at a place far from our gym. When I arrived, she was already there, looking much more relaxed than she had at the competition. I told her everything. The starvation diets, the public humiliation, the weigh-ins, even how Coach Helen had tried to mess with my concentration during my routine. Cynthia listened without interrupting, occasionally taking notes. When I finished, she sighed deeply. Unfortunately, this isn't uncommon in elite gymnastics. Coaches like Helen prey on young athletes' desire to succeed and parents' ambition for their kids. So there's nothing I can do? I asked, feeling defeated. I didn't say that, Cynthia replied. What she's doing is wrong, and it needs to stop. But you need evidence, and you need allies. We spent the next hour making a plan. I would start documenting everything, taking notes after each practice, recording Coach Helen's comments if possible, keeping track of any physical symptoms the team was experiencing. Cynthia gave me the contact information for the Regional Gymnastics Association, which had strict policies against abusive coaching. The hardest part will be getting your teammates on board, Cynthia warned. They're scared, and they've been conditioned to think this is normal. I thought about Salma, who had tried to stand up for me, and even about Kayla, who was so deep under Coach Helen's spell that she was destroying her own body to please her. I have to try, I said, for all of us. Monday's practice was business as usual. Coach Helen acted like nothing had happened at the competition, but she kept me separated from the rest of the team as much as possible. I started my documentation, mentally noting every inappropriate comment, every unreasonable demand. After practice, I approached Salma in the parking lot. Can we talk? I asked. Not here, maybe at the library tomorrow? She looked nervous but nodded. Okay, but I can't stay long. Coach Helen wants us to do extra cardio this week. The next day, I met Salma at the public library. We found a quiet corner where no one one would overhear us. I showed her some of the articles I'd found about proper nutrition for athletes and the long-term damage caused by extreme dieting. This is what's happening to us, I explained. It's not normal, and it's not okay. Salma looked at the pictures of female athletes who had developed stress fractures, heart problems, and hormonal issues from being undernourished. My mom's been worried about me, she admitted. I haven't had my period in 5 months, and I'm always cold, even when it's like 90 degrees outside. That's not healthy, Salma. None of this is. She bit her lip. But what can we do? Coach Helen has all the power. If we complain, she'll kick us off the team. Not if we all stand together, I said. I've been talking to someone who can help us report her to the regional association, but we need evidence, and we need more girls to speak up. Salma thought for a moment. I might know someone else who would help. Remember Aaron? He graduated last year, but he used to film all our competitions for his sister Madison. He has footage of Coach Helen screaming at us, making those comments about our bodies. I bet he still has those videos. That was a breakthrough I hadn't expected. Can you contact him? Yeah, we're still friends. I'll text him tonight. Over the next week, Salma and I worked quietly to build our case. Aaron came through with the videos, which clearly showed Coach Helen's inappropriate behavior at several competitions. Salma convinced Madison to join our cause after Coach Helen made her cry during practice by saying her thighs looked unprofessional. We were making progress, but we needed more. Most of the team was still too scared to openly defy Coach Helen, and Kayla had become suspicious of Salma and me spending time together. She reported back to Coach Helen about everything. Things came to a head the following Monday. Coach Helen announced that we would be doing weekly weigh-ins from now on, with our weights posted publicly to encourage accountability. When Madison asked if that was really necessary, Coach Helen exploded. "If you don't like my methods, there's the door," she screamed, her face turning that familiar shade of purple. "I have a waiting list of girls who would unalive to be on this team." Madison started crying. Salma put an arm around her. I stood there watching the scene unfold, and something inside me snapped. "This has to stop," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Coach Helen turned to me, her eyes narrowing. "What did you say?" I said this has to stop. The weigh-ins, the starvation, all of it. It's abusive, and it's wrong. The gym went completely silent. Even Kayla looked shocked. Coach Helen laughed, but it sounded forced. "Abusive? I'm trying to make you champions. This is what elite gymnastics looks like." "No, it's not," I countered. "I've done my research. Healthy athletes need proper nutrition. What you're promoting is disordered eating, and it's dangerous." "Research?" she sneered. "Did you get that from your fast food nutritionist?" Some of the girls laughed nervously, but others were watching me with new interest. "I got it from actual sports medicine experts," I said, "and from former coaches who know that what you're doing isn't just wrong. It's against the rules of the Gymnastics Association." Coach Helen's fake smile disappeared. "That's enough. You're off the team. Get your things and get out." "Fine," I said, surprised by how calm I felt. "But before I go, I want everyone to know that I've been documenting everything. The weigh-ins, the comments about our bodies, the starvation diets, and I'm not the only one." Salma stepped forward to stand beside me. After a moment, Madison joined us. Coach Helen looked between the three of us, her confidence visibly wavering. "This is ridiculous," she sputtered. "You're just bitter because you can't keep up." "We have videos," Salma said quietly. "From competitions, from practices. Aaron's been filming for years." Coach Helen's face went pale. "You've been spying on me? That's illegal." "Actually," I said, "recording in public places like competition venues isn't illegal, and neither is reporting abusive coaching practices to the regional association, which is what we're doing next." Coach Helen looked like she was about to explode. Her face went through like 5 different shades of red in 2 seconds. She started pointing her finger at me, then at Salma, then at Madison. "You ungrateful little brats," she hissed. "After everything I've done for you, for this team, I've made you winners." I stood my ground even though my legs felt like jelly. "You've made us sick. There's a difference." She turned to the rest of the team who were watching with wide eyes. "Don't listen to them. They're just jealous of those of you who have what it takes, who are willing to make sacrifices." Kayla stepped forward, positioning herself next to Coach Helen like some kind of loyal soldier. "Coach Helen pushes us because she believes in us. Some people just can't handle it." I looked at Kayla, really looked at her. Her leotard was hanging off her bony shoulders. Her face was gaunt, with dark circles under her eyes. She looked like she might snap in half if someone hugged her too hard. "Kayla," I said softly, "when was the last time you weren't hungry, or dizzy, or cold all the time?" Something flickered across her face. Doubt, maybe. But Coach Helen put her arm around Kayla's shoulders. "Don't let them get in your head, Kayla. You're my star. You know what it takes." Practice ended in complete chaos. Coach Helen kicked me, Salma, and Madison out. As we were leaving, I turned back to the rest of the team. "If anyone else wants to talk, we'll be at Starbucks after school tomorrow." Coach Helen slammed the gym door in our faces. That night, my phone blew up with texts. Some girls from the team were furious, saying we were ruining everything right before regionals. Others were curious, asking questions about what we were planning to do. Kayla sent me a single message: "You're pathetic." I didn't sleep much. I kept thinking about what would happen next. Would anyone else join us? Would the regional association even care? What if Coach Helen convinced everyone we were lying? The next day at school was weird. Girls from the team either avoided me completely or whispered as I walked by. In chemistry, I caught Brenda looking at me. When our eyes met, she quickly looked away, but not before I saw something in her expression. Fear, maybe, or hope. After school, Salma, Madison, and I went to Starbucks as planned. I honestly expected to sit there alone, drinking our overpriced coffees and feeling like failures. But at 3:45, Brenda walked in, then Catherine, then 2 more girls from the junior team. By 4:15, we had 8 gymnasts sitting around pushed-together tables, speaking in hushed voices about Coach Helen. "She made me train on a sprained ankle last year," Catherine said. "Told me I was faking it for attention. She called me Thunder Thighs in front of everyone at the Christmas showcase," one of the junior girls added. "My parents were right there." "I passed out during conditioning last month," Brenda admitted. "She told everyone I just wasn't trying hard enough." One by one, they shared their stories. It was like a dam breaking. Some cried, others got angry. I just listened, taking notes when someone mentioned something specific we could use. "So what's the plan?" Catherine finally asked. "Are we really going to report her?" I nodded. "Cynthia, she's a former UT coach, is helping us put together a formal complaint for the regional association. But we need as much evidence as possible. Texts, emails, videos, photos of bruises, medical records showing weight loss, anything that proves what's happening." "I have texts," Brenda said quietly. "She sends us these motivational messages, except they're not really motivational." She handed me her phone. I scrolled through dozens of messages from Coach Helen. "Remember, a moment on the lips equals failure on the beam. Hungry? Good. Champions aren't satisfied. satisfied. Saw you at lunch today. Hope that sandwich was worth adding 5 extra minutes to your conditioning tomorrow. My stomach turned. Can I screenshot these? Brenda nodded. Take whatever you need. By the end of our meeting, we had a solid plan. Everyone would gather whatever evidence they had. We'd meet again in 3 days to put it all together. Then we'd submit our complaint to the regional association with Cynthia's help. As we were leaving, Catherine grabbed my arm. What about Kayla? Should we try to talk to her? I sighed. I don't know. She's so deep in Coach Helen's world. I'm not sure she'll listen to us. We should try, Catherine insisted. She's the worst off of all of us. She was right. Despite being Coach Helen's favorite, Kayla was suffering the most. Okay, I agreed, but we need to be careful. If she tells Coach Helen what we're doing, I'll talk to her, Catherine offered. We used to be close before all this. The next day at school, I was opening my locker when Kayla appeared beside me. She looked even worse up close. Her skin had this grayish tint that couldn't be healthy. Catherine said you wanted to talk to me, she said flatly. Yeah, I replied, surprised she'd actually sought me out. Do you have a minute? She glanced around nervously. Not here. Meet me in the band room during lunch. No one's ever there on Thursdays. I spent the morning wondering what Kayla wanted. Was it a trap? Was Coach Helen putting her up to this? By lunch, I was a ball of nerves. The band room was empty as promised. Kayla was sitting on a chair in the corner, looking small and fragile under the fluorescent lights. Are you really reporting Coach Helen? She asked as soon as I walked in. I nodded. We have to, Kayla. What she's doing isn't okay. She'll deny everything. She'll say we're making it up because we couldn't handle the pressure. That's why we need evidence. We have videos, texts, medical records. I have a journal, Kayla interrupted. She told me to keep track of everything I eat and other stuff. My heart started beating faster. What kind of other stuff? Kayla looked down at her hands. She weighs me every day, not just at practice. She makes me come to her office before school. She writes down the number and if it's not what she wants, she makes me do extra workouts. Sometimes she makes me get rid of what I've eaten. I felt sick. Kayla, that's really serious. That's way beyond tough coaching. I know, she whispered. I know it's messed up, but she convinced me it was the only way I'd ever be good enough. Her voice cracked. My mom's been trying to get me to see a doctor. She thinks I have an eating disorder. Do you? I asked gently. Tears filled her eyes. Probably. Yes. I don't know how to stop. I moved closer and cautiously put my hand on her shoulder. She felt so fragile, like a bird. We can help you, Kayla, but we need your help too. She wiped her eyes. Coach Helen can't know I talked to you. She'll destroy me. She won't find out. I promised. Can you bring your journal to Starbucks tomorrow? We're meeting after school. Kayla nodded. I'll try. I spent that night updating Cynthia on everything. She was especially concerned about what Kayla had told me. That crosses every ethical line there is, she said over the phone. If what Kayla's saying is true, this isn't just about getting Helen removed as coach. This could involve the school administration and possibly even Child Protective Services. The next day dragged by. I kept looking for Kayla in the halls but didn't see her. When the final bell rang, I rushed to Starbucks, hoping she'd show up. Everyone else was already there when I arrived. We waited for Kayla for almost 30 minutes, but she never came. Maybe she changed her mind, Madison suggested. Or maybe Coach Helen found out, Salma said darkly. We continued without her, compiling all our evidence into a single document. Aaron had come through with video clips showing Coach Helen screaming at us, making comments about our bodies, and forcing injured gymnasts to continue training. Catherine had emails, Brenda had texts. Madison had before and after photos showing dramatic weight loss across the team. We were just finishing up when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Coach Helen found Kayla's journal. She's losing it. Come to the gym now. My blood ran cold. I showed the others the message. We need to go, Catherine said immediately. Kayla could be in trouble. We all rushed to the gym, which was supposed to be closed for maintenance that day. As we approached, we could hear shouting from inside. Through the windows, I could see Coach Helen waving Kayla's journal in the air. Kayla was crying, trying to grab it back. 2 other coaches, including Tyler, were standing nearby looking uncomfortable. We burst through the doors just as Coach Helen was yelling, "You ungrateful little traitor. After everything I've done for you." Everyone froze when they saw us. Coach Helen's eyes narrowed. Well, the gang's all here. Come to support your fellow conspirator? Give Kayla her journal back, I said, trying to sound braver than I felt. Coach Helen laughed. This journal? This collection of lies and exaggerations? She flipped through the pages mockingly. Poor Kayla, forced to maintain a healthy weight. Tragic. It's not healthy, Kayla said quietly. I haven't had my period in 8 months. I'm always cold. I can't sleep. I can't think straight. That's called dedication, Coach Helen snapped. No, that's called malnutrition, said a new voice from behind us. We all turned to see Cynthia standing in the doorway, along with a man in a suit I didn't recognize. Who the hell are you? Coach Helen demanded. Cynthia Miller, former head coach at UT, Cynthia replied calmly. And this is Robert Williams from the Regional Gymnastics Association. We received some concerning reports about your coaching methods, Helen. Coach Helen's face went pale, then red. These girls are lying. They're just not tough enough for elite gymnastics. Elite gymnastics doesn't require starving children, Robert said firmly, or verbal abuse, or forcing injured athletes to train. This is ridiculous, Coach Helen sputtered. Tyler, tell them how I run this team. Tyler looked uncomfortable. Helen, maybe we should discuss this privately. Privately? She shrieked. There's nothing to discuss. These ungrateful brats are trying to ruin me because I push them to excellence. While they argued, I edged closer to Kayla. Are you okay? I whispered. She nodded slightly, her eyes never leaving her journal in Coach Helen's hand. We need that journal, I murmured. It's evidence. Kayla took a deep breath, then suddenly lunged forward and snatched the journal from Coach Helen's grasp. Coach Helen tried to grab it back, but Salma stepped between them. Don't touch her, Salma said firmly. Coach Helen looked like she might actually hit Salma, but then seemed to remember Robert and Cynthia were watching. She took a step back, visibly trying to compose herself. This is all a misunderstanding, she said, her voice suddenly syrupy sweet. I only want what's best for my girls. Sometimes tough love is necessary in this sport. Tough love doesn't cause eating disorders, Cynthia replied, or injuries, or psychological trauma. Robert stepped forward. Helen, in light of these allegations, you're suspended from coaching pending a full investigation. Please gather your personal belongings and leave the premises. Suspended? Coach Helen looked like she'd been slapped. You can't do that. The regionals are next week. An interim coach will be appointed, Robert said firmly. This isn't a negotiation, Helen. For a moment, I thought Coach Helen might actually explode. Her face went through about 10 different expressions before settling on cold fury. She pointed at me, then at Kayla. You'll regret this, she hissed. All of you. You're nothing without me. Then she stormed off to her office, slamming the door so hard that the trophies on the nearby shelf rattled. The gym was silent for a long moment. Then Kayla started crying, not quiet tears, but deep body-shaking sobs. Catherine put her arm around her, and soon we were all huddled together in a weird group hug. What happens now? Madison asked, looking at Robert and Cynthia. Now, Robert said, we conduct a proper investigation. We'll need statements from all of you and any evidence you've collected. And in the meantime, Cynthia added, you girls get back to actually enjoying gymnastics, with a coach who doesn't think starvation is a training technique. The next few weeks were a blur. We all gave statements to the regional association. Kayla's journal turned out to be the most damning evidence. Detailed accounts of daily weigh-ins, forced purging, and psychological manipulation that made my skin crawl just hearing about it. Coach Helen was officially fired 3 weeks later. The school issued this super bland statement about pursuing other opportunities, but everyone knew the truth. Some parents were actually mad about it, mostly the ones whose kids were winning under Helen's methods, but most were horrified when they learned what had been happening. Cynthia stepped in as our interim coach while the school searched for a permanent replacement. The difference was like night and day. She actually talked about proper nutrition for athletes. She never commented on our bodies, only our technique, and she banned weigh-ins completely. Your weight is between you and your doctor, she told us. My job is to make you strong, skilled gymnasts, not to make you skinny. Kayla had the hardest adjustment. Years of Coach Helen's brainwashing didn't disappear overnight. Her mom got her into treatment for her eating disorder, and she had to take a break from gymnastics for a while, but she texted me sometimes, updating me on her progress. We didn't win regionals that year. Without Coach Helen's extreme methods, we placed 4th, still respectable, but not the domination we'd gotten used to. Some girls quit the team, saying Cynthia was too soft, but most of us stayed. Slowly, things got better. We started having actual fun at practice again. We laughed, we ate lunch together without counting every calorie. Our periods came back. Our hair stopped falling out. We looked like healthy teenagers instead of walking skeletons. One day, about 6 months after everything went down, I was at the mall with Salma and Madison when we ran into Kayla. She looked so different. Her face was fuller, her eyes brighter. She was actually smiling. Hey, she said a little awkwardly. How's the team? Good, I replied. Different. Better. Cynthia is teaching us this new floor routine that's actually fun. Kayla nodded. That's cool. My therapist says I might be able to come back next season, if I want to. Do you want to? Salma asked. Kayla thought about it. I think so. I miss it. The real parts of it, you know, not the crazy Coach Helen parts. We all nodded. We knew exactly what she meant. Well, we miss you, Madison said, and Cynthia would love to have you back when you're ready. Kayla smiled. A real smile. Not the strained one she used to force during Coach Helen's reign of terror. Thanks. That means a lot. As we said goodbye and continued our shopping, I realized something. We'd all survived Coach Helen. Not just physically, but mentally too. She'd tried to break us down, to make us believe we were only worth something if we were starving ourselves for her approval. But in the end, we'd proven her wrong. We were stronger than she thought. Strong enough to stand up for ourselves, to help each other, to heal. And that was worth more than any trophy she could have won us.